Welcome and thank you for joining us today for a Land Services SA training session on DPL closures and joints reports. This is a pre-recorded session with a live Q&A at the end of this presentation. We ask you to kindly hold all your questions until the allocated time where our subject matter experts will be able to assist. Land Services SA's industry education program covers key topics and frequently asked questions and is designed to help industry keep up to date with current practices. Our subject matter experts assist in preparing and delivering our industry education training sessions, utilising their years of experience and respected place in the industry. This session was prepared by Rui Afnan, a senior licensed surveyor at LSSA who has over 30 years of experience in private practice, and by myself, Martine Aldan, a plan lodgement analyst at Land Services SA, working closely with surveyors to help ensure plans meet legislative and lodgement requirements. During this session, we will be presenting an overview of the closures and joints report in DPL plan lodgement, its key functionality, some demonstrations of the report, including an overview confirming data and resolving closures, and we'll have a look at the acknowledge errors screens. We will look at digital data and DPL CAD standard templates and tool palettes and answer your questions. The Land Services SA Division team have a long history of validating the survey plan data shown on lodge plans and supplying up-to-date and accurate polygon closures and survey marks joint comparisons data to the state. The closure and joints have been developed to provide the surveying industry with closures and survey mark joints comparisons directly from DPL plans lodgement, and is to be used by industry when uploading DPL CAD files. Through the development of DPL processing, the plan image data, its bearing, distance labels, values, and the survey mark positions can be captured directly from the DWG file without manual data entry. This data is then used to create the closures and survey marks joints reports within DPL. This chart shows the existing workflow for DPL plan upload and lodgements in grey, with the updated workflow for DPL and joins and closures in green. There are no changes to the existing process of drafting the plan to the DPL CAD standards and uploading the DWG file into the Uploads tab, and no changes to the CAD and PPR validations and TIFF image generation processes. Once the TIFF has been successfully generated, the polygon closures and areas checking and the survey marks joint comparison reports are available in the diagram tab, and the data that has been derived from the DWG can be confirmed by surveyors and job editors as being accurate and in line with the plan image. Once the closures and joint reports are confirmed, the closures can be acknowledged at certification and then lodged. A graphical diagram of the plan's data is displayed on the diagram tab, and a background map with SAPA details including road names, surrounding features, and abutting plan details. The new DPL closures and joints report will calculate closures polygons of lots and allotments, pieces, easements, and construction parcels, and will highlight errors, calculate closures results, and provide a joints report. Polygon closures and survey marks joints comparisons use the Cadastral Survey Guidelines 13.4 tolerances and associated notes on page 154. DPL closures and joints report overview video 1. processing your DWG files for the joins and closures report is consistent with the existing process. So you just come to the Uploads tab in DPL Plan Lodgements, and you can drag and drop your DWG file here, or you can click to a folder and navigate to your file and select it from there. But it's consistent with the existing process. So once you've uploaded your file, your CAD standard validations will run, PPR validations will run, and your TIFF will be generated. So once the TIFF has generated successfully, you'll have access to a new tab underneath the Uploads tab, just on the left-hand side. So this new Diagrams tab will become available once that TIFF has generated successfully, and you'll be able to click on it and view your closures and joins details from there. So what we can see from this view is a map. This plan's got survey marks, so we've dropped it in its geographic location. We've got some line work here, which we've derived from your DWG files. There's some point numbers that calculate your closures, and we've put some distances and bearing labels. So we've picked these labels up from your DWG files, and we've been able to display them on the map here. You can switch some of these layers off, so your distance and bearing labels you can turn off, and your background you can also turn off. This is helpful on those larger plans where you may need to zoom out and things can get a bit crowded. Over on the diagrams, you can edit diagram lines if you need to. So this gives you a list of all of those lines, and you can delete them if they're not required, and export them. So download as a CSV or print to PDF. There's a summary here, so this just lists out your parcels. In this case, we've got 3 parcels and all of them have been successful. So they've all had successful closures under tolerances, so no errors. And that's why we don't have any parcels listed in our show errors and overrides drop down. So under here, we've got show parcels. We can zoom to each one of our parcels. Our count area has been worked out from our closure, and this is compared to the stated area, which we've picked up from the label in the DWG, the area label, and done that comparison. We've got the status here, so if it's past validation, it will show in green. If there's been any errors, it will list out the errors under here. We can see what they are. And for a bit more detail regarding the closure itself, you can hit on the parcel details. So we've got the misclosure bearing, the misclosure distance, what the allowable misclosure is, and the status for the plan. So in this case, this plan has passed. It's under the tolerance, the allowable tolerance for closures. And then we've got the traverse for the closure here. We can also show lines, which again is just a list of lines that have been derived from your DWG information. And we've show marks. So as I said, there are 3 survey marks in this plan here. We've been able to calculate joins on them. They've got their status showing here. There are no errors. We can zoom to each one of the marks, and we can go to show details. So with this mark number here, I can click on any other mark and it will highlight in red the path that the data has taken to do the joins calculation. So we can see the path that it's taken to get from one mark to the other mark to work out its calculation and do its comparison against the MGA. So up here on the joins report, we've got a little bit more detail. We've got the height, the plan category. This case is urban. If it was in the Adelaide City Council area, it would default to Adelaide tolerance. We've got our from mark, our to mark. It shows the comparison between the distances and bearings compared to from MGA to our plan data. It shows a scale factor and then gives a graphic representation of whether the join has been successful or whether it has any problems. So if one of these marks had something outside of tolerance, then instead of a green tick, it would have an exclamation mark, and it would be able to highlight that detail in red with an underline and bold, so you'd be able to know that that mark needs some attention. There's an export button here for this report, so you can download it as a CSV again or just print to PDF. There's an override plan details. If you do need to override your tolerances, then you can toggle on to rural and it will recalculate the joins based on that tolerance. So that is an overview of the joins and the closures report within DPL. The following video provides a demonstration of confirming data and resolving closures in DPL Closures and Joins report. We'll now take a look at how to confirm data in your closures. Once the DWG has been drafted to the DPL CAD standard and uploaded into the Uploads tab under Plan Lodgements, your CAD standards will run. Once that report has been generated, PPR validation report will run. Once both those reports are successful, the TIFF is then generated and that preview PDF will be available under the preview PDF button at the top right hand corner. Once TIFF generation has been successful, the Diagrams tab will also be available. And this is where we will show all of your closures and joins reports and the diagram. For this plan, at file upload, DPL has processed the .dwg and it has derived 141 lines of data from the plan automatically with no manual data entry required. That's almost 300 distance and bearing label data entries created and displayed in your closures, your joins, and on the diagram. In most cases, if the DWG has been drafted to the DPL CAD standard, we are able to derive almost all of the information required to complete the closures for plans, with minimal instances where some closure data requires confirmation to resolve. In these instances, there are a few ways that we can confirm the data. If we have a look at our parcel 25 here, we can see we've got one error, and if we put this twisty down, we can see the valid details were not found for line 82 to 86. So this is a line where DPL processing has been unable to find all of the information for this line. So we need to go and add it in and just confirm it in our closure. There's a couple of ways that we can do that. The first one is to go up to edit diagram lines. So this is going to give us a list of every line that we have in our closures. And there is an option to edit those lines in that screen if we want to input our label data into our lines. But I'm going to do it at a parcel level, and I'm going to click on the show details for parcel 25. So we've got some different line colours displayed for this parcel. So a black line indicates that we've got a surveyed line. So it had a distance and a bearing label in our DWG. And so it has displayed the line as black, and our label data has displayed with black text as well. If we had any copy distances in our plan, then those copy distance labels would show in blue, and the line that it's referring to would also show as a blue line, and we would know that that's an unsurveyed line. If we've got lines that do require confirmation of their data, then they will show up as orange, and so that's the line that we're looking at for this closure. For our parcel, we can see we don't have any closure details, and it's showing with a status error. We can see here quite easily that the problem with this is that the distance label has not been added, or the distance for this line has not been added to the closure. So we can go up to this edit parcel details button, and what this gives us is an editable version of our closure. And we can see highlighted in red here that we have a distance missing. So in this case, we need to calculate this distance. We've got an overall of 27.28. This dashed line here is an easement line, and we've got a part distance of 0.33, and that's for the section for 85 to 86. So what we will need to do is take that overall distance, subtract the part distance, and that will leave us with our part distance that we need to fill in for the closure. If I double click into this field, it gives me a list of distance labels that it's found on the plan. And if we were updating this with a label, so the overall distance, I should be able to find it in this list and just click on it, and that would fill it in. But in this case, we need to manually type it in because we do have to derive that distance. So I'm going to type in the distance, which is 26.95, and hit enter. So we can see that it's updated the shading of that field. It's no longer shaded red, and the line color has changed to blue. So I'm just going to press save and refresh. Back on our parcel details screen, we can see that the misclosure and bearing and distance has been updated because the closure has been able to resolve itself with that distance which we've put in, and the status has been updated to passed. This has now resolved the closure for that parcel, and it's no longer showing in our show errors filter. Now we're going to have a look at adding a bearing to a closure. So if we click on parcel 32, we can see we've got an orange line here between 0.80 and 0.70. So we'll take a look at that now. So our bearing label down here, 181.3250, is what we need to fill in for the bearing for this line. Again, I'll go to the edit parcel details screen, and I can see under that field, we've got a grayed out bearing. So what this has done is it has picked up all of the bearing labels that we can find on the plan, and it has matched at the top of the list here the one that most closely matches the angle of the geometry of the line, which is a 181.3250, and we can confirm that that is the bearing that we do need to add to this line here. So we're just going to click on that and hit enter. And again, what that has done is it has updated the field is no longer showing in red, and we could update any other details for our closure that do require them from here, and then click save and refresh. Again, we now can see our closure information that's been updated, and the status has been updated to passed also. And if we close, we can see that that parcel is no longer showing in our show errors filter. Now we will run through what to do when we need to remove a point from a polygon closure. LSSA are constantly improving our data processing to decrease the instances where any manual confirmation of closures data is required. We still do have a few instances where we will need to remove an extraneous point number from a closure so that it better represents the label data that is showing on the plan. In this plan, if we have a look at a construction parcel 1, we can see that there are 2 errors for this parcel. On this twisty, we can see the valid details are not found for line 9 to 24, and also not found for 24 to 6. So because we've got a doubling up of our point number here, that's a pretty good indication that there's an extra point in our closure, which has created 2 lines. So in this case, we've got 0.6 to 24 and from 24 to 9, but we only have label data from 0.6 to 9. So we've got 41.68 as the distance, and then we've got our bearing label over here. And so this is a pretty good indicator that we actually just need to remove 24 from our closure, and then that will better match the label data that we've got showing on the plan. Again, I'm going to go to show details and the edit parcel details button at the top here. So what I need to do is just confirm that the distance does need to go from 6 to 9. And what I will need to do is remove 0.24 from the closure. The easiest way to do that is to go to this points box and can just delete point number 24 from the closure. So what that has done now, it's recalculated this closure to go from 0.9 to 0.6, and we have matching label data for that line. Distance 4168, bearing 355.0720. So I'm just going to hit save and refresh. Again, it's been able to resolve our closure now. We've got a misclosure bearing distance, allowable misclosure, and our status for this parcel has been updated to passed. Again, that parcel has now gone from our show errors and overrides filter. Now let's have a look at a parcel with a misclosure. So having a look at parcel 51, if we display our error here, we can see our misclosure distance is greater than the survey polygon allowable misclosure. So we know that there is a misclosure within this parcel details. If we go to show details, we can see that the closure is complete. So there's no missing data here. There's nothing to be confirmed. It has used the label data that has been provided on the DWG to calculate the closure for this polygon. And we've got the closure details here, and we can see that our distance is outside of tolerance for this parcel. If we have a look at our labels on this plan in the closure, we've got a couple of distances which look pretty good. So 9 metres on the eastern and the western boundaries of parcel 51. But if we have a look at the distances for the northern and the southern boundary, it looks like a bit of a typo may have been made when the DWG was being prepared. So we've got a couple of distances here, 33.37 and 33.31. So we wouldn't be able to go and simply update this parcel in our closures, because then we would have information in a closure that is not reflected on our DWG, and we need those two things to align. So in this case, the job editor or the drafter would need to go back and figure out exactly what the value should be for these labels and update them in the DWG and re-upload that DWG into Plan Lodgement DPL. And I would assume that they would correct their mistake. So we'd have a different label value to pick up for one of these distances, and it would be correct, and therefore we wouldn't have an error showing for this parcel once it had been resolved in the DWG and re-uploaded into DPL. So just to recap, we've looked at editing a bearing and a distance in a closure to add the label data to a polygon. We've removed an unnecessary point number from a closure so that the closure reflects the label values. And then we've looked at a polygon with a misclosure that would require correcting in the DWG and re-uploading into DPL plan uploads. Once the closures, joins data has been confirmed in the diagram tab and are complete, the plan will be able to be certified. The certified plan screen will list any closures and joins errors that require acknowledgement. And once they have been acknowledged, then we'll be able to proceed to lodge or relodge the plan. DWG data. As we have seen in the demonstration videos, there is a direct and important relationship between the DWG and the digital data used in the digital diagram. closures calculations, and joins comparison. And LSSA will continue to improve our data processing to decrease the instances where manual data confirmation is required. In most cases, if the DWG has been drafted to the DPL CAD standard, the processing of the files is able to derive almost all of the digital information required for closures and joins, with minimal instances where the data needs confirmation, and we are able to display it in the diagram tab as closures and joins reports. The CAD and PPR validation reports will be a useful tool for identifying issues and where amendments to your DWG files are required. Common issues in the DWG plans that can impact the level of your plan data that can be derived include labels being on the wrong layers, and this can cause polygons not to be formed, label values outside of tolerance for matching to the line work, and label position incorrect. An example of this would be a road width label being too far away from the road bearing labels. And changes must be resolved to a point along a line. LSSA will keep industry up to date with tips and tricks to assist them with drafting plans for closures and joins data. Summary of key points. Real-time information is displayed on the Planning SA map layer of your closures data. Make sure the summary of parcels, joins and closures is complete. It's important to double check that the number of parcels you have on your plan is reflected in your closures report. Correct digital data will come directly from your DWG. There are a range of training videos and support material through the LSSA Industry Education Hub. Ensure that your plan is drafted to the CAD standard and that your DPL CAD template and tools are up to date. Genuine acknowledgements from the drop-down list in the acknowledgement screen are available. This recording is available to watch from our Industry Education Hub library, where you can also find a range of educational and support materials to assist you in your day-to-day work. That concludes the recorded section. Thank you for listening, and please remain online for the live Q&A session with our subject matter experts.